Hey, I hope you're doing fantastic. This week we're doing something really cool. This week's video is actually sponsored by AlgoLaser, and they sent us over their new Alpha Mk2 22w laser engraver, so that way we can be some of the very first ones to check it out and share this amazing machine with you. I know normally we focus on 3D printing content on this channel, but the name of the channel is Rem Thompson's Maker Shed, and that encompasses all things maker, which means laser cutters and laser engraving as well. And that's a technology that I was into and participating in hobby-wise even before this channel. And around Christmas time, that's when I make a lot of my extra spending money, is by doing laser jobs and doing custom cups and things like that for people. So I think that it really does fit the vibe of the channel, you know, all hobbies and DIY. So that's why when AlgoLaser reached out and wanted to sponsor a video to show off their new Alpha Mk2, I absolutely jumped at it. So what exactly is so special about this new Alpha Mk2? Well, let's take a look. So the AlgoLaser Alpha Mk2 is a 22-watt laser engraver designed for you to be able to cut various types of wood, colored acrylics like black. It has a 400 by 400 millimeter build volume, and one of my favorite things about it is it actually has an integrated air assist. The air assist actually plugs directly into the Alpha Mk2, and when you're using Lightburn, you can turn it on and off there. Or you also have manual controls by utilizing this inline adjustment. And something really unique that I haven't personally seen yet is, because this is a variable speed pump, it's also got software control, and you can actually control this air pump through the screen of the machine, which is a pretty responsive and well done touchscreen in my opinion. So you do have a lot of control over what you're doing. And inside of this build volume, you can do quite a lot of really cool projects. Starting from the beginning with the Alpha Mk2, we actually unboxed this on a live stream a few weeks ago, where we unboxed, put it together, and did a couple of initial test engraves. And I have to say, this thing came absolutely amazingly packaged, and it's some of the best packaging I've received on a laser engraver to date, which I've had a handful of, so for me, being able to have everything nice and organized, I mean, they give you really nice full color instructions, which make it very easy to assemble everything. Your hardware is all contained in this really nifty little like tackle box where all the fasteners are divided, and you'll also find some keys, which is something that we'll touch on a little bit later when we start talking about the safety and part of the things that make the AlgoLaser Alpha Mk2 so impressive. So speaking of assembly, we were able to, within an hour and a half, on a live stream, unbox, assemble, and be utilizing this machine. And it's really hard to accidentally put this laser together wrong. An issue that I have with a lot of these open frame laser engraving machines is, well, typically they're using regular bog standard aluminum extrusion, which is fine. I don't have an issue with that. But if you're not following the instructions very carefully, or you get into a little bit of a rush, it can be difficult to put everything together right. And on more than one occasion, I've accidentally put together a laser engraver backwards. And with the way that all of the pieces on the Alpha Mk2 kind of slot together, that's not really a concern of mine. Part of the frame assembly makes this thing very rigid, so it's actually capable of pushing some pretty high speeds, which when you couple that with the high power 22-watt diode laser head, that means that you can actually get jobs done faster than you can on a lot of these open frame diode machines. Many of these newer machines make tensioning the belts kind of tricky and difficult. The Alpha Mk2, if you're looking at the frame of the machine, you actually have through holes for belts, which means, very similar to something like a Voron, your belt tensioners are very easily accessible. You don't have anything like clamping the belt down and making it difficult to get them tensioned or adjusted. So when it comes to assembly and user serviceability, it definitely exceeds my expectations. Personally, I found the build to be pretty fun. It was very straightforward if you've ever put any type of machine or IKEA furniture together before. And it's very difficult to do it wrong, which is very welcoming. The kind of standout about this machine for me is it looks like it was really kind of sports car inspired. Like, I grew up in the early 2000s, so for me, the Lamborghini Gallardo has a special place in my heart. There's something about those sharp angles and curves, and when you're looking at a red and black machine filled with these same types of sharp corners and facets and chamfers, it really just resonates with me. I mean, look how good this thing looks. It's phenomenal. When you open up the Alpha Mk2, you're going to be greeted with a handful of things. You're going to receive some really high quality documentation for your laser engraver as well as the air pump, which walk you through setup of both of them, how to clean the air filter on your air assist, which it does have, and when you're burning things like you are with a laser, a changeable air filter, or a cleanable one even, is of great value in my opinion. It's going to prevent your air assist from getting clogged up, and it's going to just make sure that your machine runs better for a longer period of time. You're also going to get these conformity, these CE certificates, so they're actually talking about making sure that the materials in the machine are up to par. They also include a fair amount of materials for you to actually test out and try. So we were given these little metal business cards, which are actually what we test engraved on the stream. Now, be careful with these. A 22-watt laser is actually going to produce enough heat where mine kind of deformed because I used too much power. The engrave came out really clean. However, my business cards are a little warpy, which is okay. I haven't actually done these before, so being able to test them out was really cool and gives me some ideas for future projects. They also give you a piece of black acrylic, and it is backed on both sides, so the machine is very capable of cutting acrylic as long as it's not clear. These diode lasers, because they use the blue light, the wavelength of light is not compatible with cutting clear acrylic, so you have to do some research and see what colors you can cut. I know for a fact black acrylic is something that you can cut with ease on a machine like this. I got a sheet of basswood plywood, which you can see we've got some things cut out of, and a thin sheet of fiberboard or MDF, which I just did a quick little test engrave on and put our logo. So you get materials to try, you get all the tools necessary to use and service your machine. You also get a nice little toolbox, which is where all of your fasteners are held, I mentioned that already, as well as keys for the safety lockout. And I'm going to keep this little toolbox on hand because it's really valuable to be able to keep things. It is a manual focus, which isn't the end of the world. Every other laser to this point that I've owned is a manual focus machine. That's okay. But the way they do it is they give you this little aluminum, looks like a top hat, and you have to make sure you don't lose this. So what I'm probably going to do is I'll take the dimensions and make some 3D printable ones, which I'll upload to printables for everybody to be able to utilize later, just to help prevent losing it and needing spare parts. If you have a 3D printer, you'd be able to pop off your own. Something unique in the box for this machine that I've not actually had another laser come with is inside of this little package. And as we do a close-up, in addition to these two little finger glovies, you'll find these little glass lenses, and these are actually the lenses for the laser machine. So they're replaceable, and it is a consumable part. After so many hours of burning using a laser, these lenses do start to build up debris on them, and it's very important to keep them clean to help prevent your machine from getting damaged. But AlgoLaser, thinking ahead, in this all-encompassing package, actually gave you two of them, and then again, those little finger glovies, just to put over a couple of your fingers. Yes, we know what they look like. It's to prevent getting fingerprints on there. If you've ever changed a headlight in a car, you know you're not supposed to touch the bulb because of the heat coming off will actually break your headlight bulb. And the same is true here. These machines are capable of producing immense amount of heat, and you don't want any grease, oils, or residue on these lenses when you change them out. Now, after unboxing and assembly, it was really easy to get this machine connected to Lightburn, which is my laser software of choice these days. And Lightburn just saw the machine and it was able to import all the specs and everything. So that way it knew exactly what you were working with. You just have to double check that all the parameters are accurate. In my case, it was. Let's talk about using the machine. So AlgoLaser claims that this machine is capable of engraving certain materials up to 20,000 millimeters per minute. And for a desktop diode laser, that's pretty darn fast. Under the right circumstances, it's capable of recovery after power loss, which is something that we've started to see in 3D printers, and it's very nice with a machine like this. The reason that it's able to work is because you can use absolute positioning with the machine. It has end stops for your X and Y axes, so that way the laser head always knows where it is after it's done a quick homing.
The missile knows where it is at all times. It knows this because it knows where it isn't.
And my first few lasers that I've used didn't have that ability, so it made finding exactly where I was going to have my workpieces rather difficult. Being able to position parts and then be exactly where I need them is really nice, but it did affect my workflow a little bit. See, I'm used to putting my part down in my engraving area and where I want to work, and then I'll just manually move the tool head of the laser around. And you could probably do that here, but what's way easier is I went ahead and burned myself a grid and a sheet of MDF. I was able to go to Home Depot and get a sheet of MDF for just under 30 bucks for this. I didn't buy a full sheet, but what's really nice is the grid that I burnt into the actual sheet of MDF uses 10 millimeter increments, so I know that every box is 10 more millimeters than the previous. In the center, we did a circle that's 100 millimeters in diameter, and then around that we did one that's 200 millimeters in diameter. One of my favorite things to make with these machines is coasters, which I'm sure a lot of you probably watched my How to Make Better Coasters video, and you know that that's a project I enjoy. So being able to roughly center these laser engraved coasters really easily was something that I hadn't thought about before. And if you want to make your own grid for this machine, I actually designed these 3D printable feet, which are free to download over on printables.com. The link will be in the description. And you can actually lay it out so every single time you're setting the machine up, you're putting it in the exact same spot on your grid. These feet use 2 small screws per foot to keep your positioning exact. And this has been a total game changer in my laser workflow. Since I'm not just moving the actual tool head around anymore, and I'm using the dimensions and actually measuring things out, having exact positioning and repeatability every single time is important, especially if you're batching out jobs or you're making a bunch of duplicate objects. Personally, I prefer to use my laser engravers tethered to my computer because you shouldn't be using this machine and walking away from it. You're essentially making fire or you're burning through material. That's how a laser works. So you do need to be close by, and make sure you always have on your laser safety glasses, which of course AlgoLaser includes. They want you to be able to start using this thing as soon as you unbox it, which is phenomenal. But if you can't or don't want to have a computer tied up by being tethered to the laser, you have 2 other ways that you can interact with the Alpha Mk2. It does support USB engraving, so there's a USB port that you can plug into. And then also, you have the ability to use the AlgoLaser app. Now, personally, I wasn't able to test this out for a couple of reasons. One, I frankly just didn't have time and it wasn't within my normal workflow. I will test that out thoroughly and let you guys know what I think in a future video where we actually give you some long-term impressions after I've had a lot of time to play around with the machine and do some of my normal projects with it. And the other reason is the only major downside that I've had so far with this machine, full transparency, I received what I believe to be a pre-production unit running early firmware. And as a result, I wasn't actually able to get the machine to join my Wi-Fi. And the reason for that is kind of weird. The keyboard on the touchscreen, when I was trying to add it to my local network, was missing the U key, which is part of the password for the Wi-Fi at the studio. And that meant that I wasn't able to easily get the machine to join. There's a couple of things that I could have done. I could have made a guest network, or I could have changed the wireless password, but that would have disconnected everything else. And frankly, I use my machine tethered to the computer anyway, so it wasn't as big of a deal for me. But that is something that I brought to AlgoLaser's attention, and they advised me that their engineers are working on a solution for it. Basically, instead of being able to type in U for umbrella, you have 2 options for Y for yes. If that was the one downside experience I had, I'm not overly unhappy. But it is a slight inconvenience not being able to utilize their app. So we'll follow up more on the actual app later in time. Speaking of that wireless connectivity, AlgoLaser has advised that this actually is capable of using a 5G connection, which is really cool because a lot of these different types of 3D printers and laser engravers that I've used in the past that have wireless connectivity are only able to use a 2G network, which means you have to either make sure you have a 2G network enabled on your router system or that you have something dedicated for it. And most of our new systems are using 5G for your local networking, and most people aren't going to be wanting to go into their router settings and mess around with stuff just to be able to add a device. So being able to just natively support 5G printing is incredibly, incredibly handy. So we'll definitely touch on that app later because it is really exciting just how convenient that it seems. Anytime we do these laser videos, I always preach safety, whether it be for your lungs and make sure that you have proper ventilation, your eyes because you only have 2 and lasers are incredibly dangerous for your vision, and fire hazards. Those are 3 real concerns when it comes to working with a laser. And I said earlier in the video that you should not be operating this thing unattended. And if you do run into a situation where you have an emergency and need to stop it, there is an actual hardware emergency stop that you can slam the button down and stop the machine from running and doing whatever it is. And the machine will start to make a noise letting you know that it's been triggered. You can resume use after you've triggered the e-stop, but it's nice that it's there. Just a quick red button that you just smack and everything stops. It's just dead in its tracks. That is a huge thing. Another vital piece of safety that this machine has, I don't see myself needing to utilize, but it's very welcoming to see. Kind of a cool idea. It has a key. So if you are in a house where you have children, or you're in a workshop environment where you have people who you don't maybe trust to operate your machine, there is a key that you can turn to lock the machine out from use and make sure that nobody's going to do something improper with the laser. Just make sure you don't lose them. You do get two, so put one away somewhere safe. AlgoLaser is kind of the new kid on the street when it comes to producing machines, and my initial impressions are this one's really solid. What's very cool is, even though they are a newer manufacturer, they do have a pretty good range of accessories already available. And one of the things that they included for me was the honeycomb cutting surface. Whenever you're cutting, it's really nice to be able to get airflow underneath of the object you're cutting, so that way you are reducing your risk of fire. And these honeycomb build surfaces are really nice for that. You'll see on the one that they included for me, there are dimensions so you can easily figure out where your parts are in relation to the machine. And what's really cool is I asked, and AlgoLaser authorized me to give one of them away to you. So in addition to showing you this really cool machine that I've been having a blast with, I get to give you something. So I'm sure you want to know how you participate in the giveaway. Well, it's pretty easy. AlgoLaser is starting pre-orders for this machine on May 22nd, which is my birthday, and that's when we're ending our 3D printer giveaway. Link to that video in the description. From May 22nd to May 31st, this machine is going to be on pre-order for $599 US. The normal price for the Mark II is going to be $749. If you purchase an AlgoLaser Alpha Mk2 using my affiliate link in the description between the pre-order dates of May 22nd and June 22nd, I'm going to run this for 1 month. AlgoLaser is going to give me a list of everybody who orders the machine using my affiliate link. And from that list, I'm going to pick one person at random, and AlgoLaser is going to send you one of these honeycomb cutting surfaces, so that way you can get some really nice cuts. And this is open internationally. Anywhere you can purchase this machine from AlgoLaser, you're eligible to win. They're handling the shipping, they're handling everything, and this is super exciting. All you have to do is just purchase the machine using the link in the description below, and we'll pick one of you at random, and you get hooked up with one of these awesome cutting surfaces. Pretty darn cool. AlgoLaser let me know that anybody who orders using my affiliate link will actually save $10 off of their purchase. So in addition to helping the channel, you also help yourself save a few bucks, and it doesn't cost you anything. You're saving money by helping us out. So we've talked about the machine, we've talked about AlgoLaser, and we've talked about my experience so far, but how has the actual usage been? Well, I'm here to tell you it's been pretty awesome. This thing is super quick and can do way more because of the higher power than any of the other laser engravers that I've had in the past. So let's take a look at some of the jobs that I've rattled off with this machine. The very first thing that I engraved after our little test business cards that we did on stream was actually the grid that I'm using to align everything. That job was really straightforward. I followed a tutorial on how to set it up. I'll try to find the video that I watched and link it in the description below so you guys can see if you want to follow along. That took me 14 minutes at 100% power at 15,000 millimeters per minute. The very next job I did is I wanted to keep testing out MDF, and I used the sheet that they included to engrave the RTMS logo. And that turned out super clean, and I did that one at 30,000 millimeters per minute at about 90% power. Unfortunately, I lost the time on how long that job took. It was only a couple of minutes, though, not very long at all. The next job that I did was a Mother's Day gift. I like to make things and give things from the heart, and I made my mom this really cool cut-in-place box using an online box generator. Of course, the link for this site will be in the description as well. Basically, using a sheet of plywood, you cut out a box flat, and the website will let you pick what kind of box or drawer or shelf you want to make, and then put in the parameters. How big of stock are you working with? So I did a pretty small one using the included basswood plywood. What's really cool is I was able to set up the job in Lightburn, and one side says Happy Mother's Day, the other side says I love you mama, which instead of saying mom, I call my mom mama. The bottom is marked Mother's Day 2024, and it actually has a living hinge that the laser was able to very accurately cut out, and it functions so smooth. It's really cool. The The leftover stock functions kind of like a spring and a living hinge, and I'm not sure what exactly she's going to put in this, but very happy overall with the way the machine performed. A couple drops of CA glue to hold it all together, and it feels really robust. So if you wanted to make cool little nicky-nacky drawers and shelves and boxes, this machine is very capable of doing that. The engraving I did was at 20,000 millimeters per minute at 100% power, and the cutting was at 700 millimeters per minute at 100% power, and I probably should have tuned it down just a little bit because it ended up needing a second pass to cut all the way through. What's nice about the Mark II having the end stops on it was I was able to just put my stock right back down on the honeycomb in the exact same place, run a second pass at the same speed and power, and it cut out super clean. I was able to put the box together, and my mom was super happy with it. I also did this really cool little RTMS coin. I'm working on kind of some marketing materials. Basically, I want something that I can hand out and give to people, and I am workshopping an idea of like poker chips where I have the RTMS logo on one side and on the other is going to be a QR code to actually pull up the channel so that way people can see what we're doing. And we're actually going to MRF, Midwest Rep Rap Festival in Goshen, Indiana on Saturday, June 22nd. And I want to have a bunch of something to hand out so that way we can actually show off the channel while we're there and producing content and meeting all the cool people. So if you're going to be at MRF in June, let me know. I would love to meet you in person. I think that'd be really exciting. It's a lot bigger than a poker chip, but it turned out really cool. And with the ability to position things absolutely thanks to being able to home and have dimensional accuracy from the end stops, I'm able to set up a job where I can engrave one side, cut it out, flip a piece of stock right back over, and in the exact same position, I can engrave something else entirely. So I think this really unlocks some potential for cool things that I can make, and a laser engraver is a really cool side hustle and a great way to make a couple extra dollars to fund your hobbies. Unfortunately, I don't recall the exact settings that I use, very similar to the box because I actually cut it out of the same stock. And one of the last things that I did was actually to set us up for a future project. I wanted to test how the machine was able to perform on real wood. And if you remember the video where we built the shelves in cameraman Bo's house in the studio and for his living room, we actually had some leftover wood from that we used to make shelves. And as a result, I had some basically free pine hanging out. So I made this really cool sign that we're going to finish up later, but it says Baker Residence Wi-Fi, and I included a QR code so that way anytime the cameraman Bo has a guest over at his house, they can just jump on the Wi-Fi. He doesn't have to share the password with anybody. And it's a really cool thing. So if you want something that you can make a gift or something personalizable, something for your house, you can make really cool signage with these machines. And it handled this low quality pine really well. One of the issues that I've noticed with pine is when you're engraving it, some parts don't cut quite as well from my experience, and that tends to be where there's a lot more sap accumulating. So inside the engraving, there is actually some raised ridges and bumps, which not super noticeable. It still turned out really nice looking, and I'm excited for us to actually clean up and finish this and hang it on the wall. I can't exactly call this video a review because it is a sponsored video, and I am working closely with AlgoLaser on the production. However, I can tell you, in my personal opinion, and I never want to be anything but honest with you, I have genuinely enjoyed using the AlgoLaser Alpha Mk2 quite a lot. Bar none, this has been my favorite laser engraver to use up to this point. And that's because the assembly was easy. The machine is very intuitive and straightforward to use, especially if you already have experience using more complicated machines. It's able to produce really amazing results, as you can see from the projects. I'm still super stuck on the box that I made for my mom and the Wi-Fi sign. Those both turned out so cool, and I genuinely could not be happier with the way that the machine has performed. We did have that one small hiccup with the keyboard, but that's something that is actively being addressed, and they were very receptive to that feedback. So, in my opinion, if I had to go out tomorrow and purchase a new laser engraver, it'd be pretty hard for me to beat the value of the Mark II. At $599 on the pre-sale or $749 normal price, the fact that you get the laser engraver and the integrated air assist is pretty hard to beat. You get a lot of stock to try out, and AlgoLaser has a really awesome supply of accessories. You can get the honeycomb cutting surface, they have a camera that integrates with Lightburn, there's enclosures, there's rotaries, so if you wanted to make tumblers or mugs, you can do that. So I think that the value is there. Personally, I would have zero hesitation at all spending the $749. In fact, when I bought my first laser engraver 2 years ago, I spent more money on that for something that was less capable. Personally, when I'm looking for a machine, I'm looking for the value, and something that's able to produce high quality results at a quick pace is something that I find really important, especially because I'm the kind of person, I'm always looking to find a way to monetize my hobbies, so I enjoy selling things, which means I have to be able to produce things that look nice, and I need to be able to do that timely. And I absolutely feel like I could do that with an Alpha Mark II. And I really do want to thank AlgoLaser for sending the machine over and letting us try it out to be able to show it off to you guys. If you're going to pick up an Alpha Mark II, let me know in the comments. Let me know what kind of things that you want to make with it. And let me know for our follow-up video, what kind of projects do you want to see us do with the Mark II here in the studio? Because I have some ideas, and we have an upcoming video where we're going to be using this as our main tool, which is really exciting. Even more though, I do want to thank our level 3 and 4 channel members, Nathan Wolford and Snail3D. Thanks to your guys' financial contributions, you're able to help keep the lights on in the studio and help us grow, and I appreciate that immensely. If you want to help out the channel, the best thing that you can do is like the video, leave a comment, subscribe, let us know what kind of cool stuff that you like to make, and share it with a friend. Keep calm and laser on.